You ever have one of those moments where your whole world doesn't just crumble? It politely knocks, asks if you're seated, then sets itself on fire? That was me, sitting in the corner booth of La Morelle, the overpriced French place my wife swore by, and I could barely pronounce. Logan, she said, pushing a wine glass toward me with the same hand that used to fix my tie before big meetings. This is Chase. You've heard me mention him. Mention him? That man had been a phantom in our house for 6 months. My mentor, my work husband, he just gets my sense of humor. Yeah, I'd heard plenty. Chase Donovan, smug in a silk shirt 2 sizes too small, extended his hand with the kind of confidence that only comes from having absolutely no shame. Pleasure to finally meet you. I stared at it. I'm sure it is. He grinned, sat down like he was auditioning to replace me in my own life. And that's when Ashley, my wife, dropped the bombshell, casually, like she was announcing dessert. We wanted to tell you this in person, she said. Chase and I are together now. The royal we. Nothing warms the heart like getting dumped via group chat at a dinner table. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't even reach for the steak knife like some tabloid husband with impulse issues. I just sat there and let it settle in. Like smoke from a fire I didn't know had already burned my house down. You're serious, I said. Ashley nodded. I am. And you thought this, I gestured at the candlelit circus, was the best way to break the news? Chase leaned in, full of that fake alpha swagger. I told her we should do this the mature way. Civil, controlled. I looked him dead in the eye. You know, Chase, sometimes maturity is just cowardice wearing a tie. His smirk flickered. Ashley gave a sigh, the same one she used to use when I'd forget to take the trash out. We just wanted to be honest. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't the start of the affair. This was the curtain call. They had rehearsed their lines, reserved the stage, bought the wine, and invited me to play the fool one last time. But I wasn't crying. I wasn't storming out. Because I had something they didn't know yet. Something I'd been planning ever since I found the receipts, the texts, the hotel booking under her maiden name. They thought this was their moment? No. This was mine. After the scene at La Morelle, I didn't go home. I drove. No destination. Just the road and my hands on the wheel, white-knuckled and steady like I was defusing a bomb with every turn. I ended up at Maplewood Park, the kind of place that smells like wet bark and unspoken regrets. Our old picnic spot. The same one where Ashley once told me, you're the safest place I've ever known. Funny, huh? I sat on a bench until the wind got bold and the streetlights blinked on. That's where I called my brother, Mason. She cheated, I said. No theatrics. Just the truth. He exhaled like he'd known all along. You okay? No, I replied, but I will be. I didn't ask to stay with him. He just said, keys under the frog statue, couch is yours. At 2:17 a.m., I finally stepped into her house. It still smelled like lavender and lies. I walked through like a stranger. My boots didn't belong here anymore. That's when I saw the envelope on the kitchen table. Logan, don't make this harder than it needs to be. She'd already moved half her things out. Her closet was emptier than her promises. And her toothbrush? Gone. But oddly, her wedding ring sat in the soap dish by the sink, like it had been trying to wash itself clean. That night, I opened the file folder I'd been assembling for weeks. Printed emails. Bank transfers. A photo Chase had taken with her in Tahoe, the one he posted to a private Instagram, clearly not knowing I still had access to her old backup account. I was gathering evidence, not for a confrontation, oh no. I was building a plan, piece by piece. See, Ashley didn't just cheat on me. She underestimated me. And that was going to be her last mistake. Monday morning, I walked into work like nothing had happened. Tie straight, coffee in hand, smile just crooked enough to say, don't ask unless you really want to know. My coworkers greeted me with the usual head nods and half-hearted, how's it going? The same people who would probably gasp if they knew my wife had traded me in like an old iPhone. But I wasn't there to sulk. I was there to get to my office, because on that desk sat a flash drive that contained every backup from our shared cloud account. She never changed the password. Ironic, considering she changed everything else. I clicked open the folder titled Taxes_2021. She wasn't even clever, and boom, there it was. A folder within the folder labeled Conference Photos. Inside, selfies with Chase. Hotel invoices. A picture of Ashley in a robe meant for someone who just finished lying, not showering. Now here's where it got interesting. I found another folder, hidden deep in a subfolder titled HR Forms. This one had documents Chase had sent her. Company contracts. Merger leaks. Stuff you don't just email around unless you're planning something shady. That's when the dots connected. This wasn't just a love triangle. It was corporate espionage. Chase wasn't just after my wife, he was after her firm's merger deal. And she was feeding him intel like it was bedtime gossip. Now I had something way bigger than heartbreak. I had leverage. I sat back in my chair, the weight of everything shifting. My heart wasn't heavy anymore, it was armed. And that, my friend, is when I stopped being the betrayed husband and started becoming the hunter. Some people get mad and throw dishes. Others go quiet, go cold, go missing. Me? I collect receipts. And by Tuesday morning, I had a drawer full. Chase Donovan wasn't just sleeping with my wife. He was sloppy, arrogant. He sent emails from his work account, thinking confidential, and the subject line made them invisible. He used hotel Wi-Fi without a VPN. He left breadcrumbs like he wanted to be caught, or like he didn't think the man he'd wronged could follow the trail. That's the thing about betrayal. It sharpens your instincts. Makes you notice patterns, slip-ups, the smallest details. Ashley once said I was boring because I paid too much attention to things that didn't matter. Joke's on her. Turns out it matters a lot when you're building a case. Tuesday night, I met with Angela Barnes, a divorce attorney with a voice like a chainsaw wrapped in silk. She didn't smile once during our consultation. I liked her immediately. "You're not here for advice," she said, thumbing through my printed screenshots. "You're here for revenge." "I'm here for justice," I replied. "The legal kind, and the other kind." She raised an eyebrow. "You do know what happens to men who go off script, right?" "I'm not going off script," I said. "I'm writing a new one." Angela leaned back, studying me like I was a puzzle she wasn't sure she wanted to solve. This could cost them their careers. Him especially. "I know. You sure you want to burn it all down?" I didn't hesitate. "I'm not burning it down. I'm just handing out matches and seeing who lights what." She gave the tiniest nod. "I'll prep the papers." "You'll serve her." "No," I said, smiling for the first time in days. "I've got something better planned." Wednesday morning, I pulled up to the building Ashley and Chase worked in. It was one of those modern glass towers that looked expensive but felt hollow, like the people inside were faking both power and purpose. Perfect, really. I wasn't going in. Not yet. I just needed to know her routine. 7:56 a.m., Ashley pulled into her reserved spot in a car I was still technically paying off. She wore a navy blazer, heels that clicked like a metronome on the pavement, and a confidence that looked borrowed. 8:03 a.m., a Chase showed up. Black Audi. Sunglasses. Strutted into the building like the villain in a music video no one asked for. 8:05 a.m., I had what I needed. See, it wasn't just about catching them. It was about showing them I saw everything. That while they were busy playing games, I was memorizing the rules. That night, I opened a new email account using an alias, just initials, no name. I sent a single sentence to the board of directors at Chase's company, with a few attached documents. "You should know who's leaking your merger strategy." 20 minutes later, I got a reply. "Who is this?" I didn't answer. Thursday was delivery day. Ashley's firm had a standing tradition, catered lunch for all senior staff, delivered by one of those fancy services that thought an arugula salad was a personality. I knew this because I used to help her pick out her order on lazy Sundays. Chicken, always grilled. Dressing on the side. No croutons. No fun. So I made sure that day's delivery came with a little extra garnish, an envelope taped discreetly to her salad container, addressed in her own handwriting. Inside, a printed photo of her and Chase, kissing in the hallway of a Tahoe hotel. Also inside, the official divorce papers. Angela had outdone herself. Sharp, brutal, no wiggle room. The prenup was airtight, but the infidelity clause gave me full leverage. She'd walk away with her car, her clothes, and her conscience, assuming she could carry all three at once. I wasn't there to see her open it. Didn't need to be. Angela said the server who delivered it said she went pale, stood up, and locked herself in the restroom for half an hour. And Chase? He tried to act like it was a mistake. Said someone was trying to sabotage them. They weren't wrong. But sabotage is such an ugly word for precision. That night, Ashley called me. First time in over a week. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. "Logan, we need to talk. Please." "It's not what it looks like." I smiled. That line again. It always is. Then she texted, "You're making a mistake." "Oh, sweetheart. You already made it." Friday morning, the fallout started. Word spread that Chase had been placed on administrative leave pending an internal investigation. Ashley's boss asked her to take a few days off, to deal with her personal matters. My lawyer said I was under no obligation to respond to Ashley directly. If she contacts you, send it through me, Angela instructed. Don't give her the satisfaction of a reaction. But I wasn't after satisfaction anymore. I was after silence. Closure. The kind you carve yourself when no one hands it to you. Friday night, I sat on my porch with a glass of scotch and watched the sunset dip behind the trees. It was quiet, peaceful, and for the first time in a long time, the house didn't feel haunted. The mask was off. The truth was out. And I wasn't done yet. Because while Ashley was licking her wounds and Chase was sweating his career, I was still moving pieces. Slowly, quietly. I had one more thing to do. One more piece to play. And it wasn't going to be pretty. I used to think revenge was loud, explosive, the kind of thing that ends in sirens and screaming. Turns out, the best kind is quiet, whispered through hallways, folded into inboxes, and delivered by the weight of your silence. By Saturday morning, the storm clouds had formed. The internal audit team at Chase's firm had called in a forensic analyst. His emails had already been flagged. Ashley's firm was running damage control like a PR firm caught in a scandal, and she hadn't called again since that voicemail, which meant it was time for Act 3. I parked outside the Maplewood Country Club at 11:13 a.m., 20 minutes before the weekend brunch crowd started sipping mimosas and gossiping over Eggs Benedict. A friend of mine, Trevor, the club's event manager, owed me a favor. Years ago, I helped him cover a financial mishap that could have cost him his job. In return, he granted me a small kindness today. He nodded as I walked in. Room's ready. Back corner, just like you asked. The room was set up for what looked like a casual lunch meeting. 2 place settings, water poured, soft jazz playing overhead. I'd chosen this spot deliberately. Not private enough for secrecy, not public enough for a crowd. Just exposed enough for whispers to catch in curious ears. Chase showed up right on time. Of course he did. Men like him never think they're being hunted until the trap has already snapped shut. He wore a beige blazer and sunglasses indoors, because of course he did, and spotted me instantly. He walked over like a man trying to pretend his house wasn't on fire. "Logan," he said smoothly, sliding into the seat across from me. "This is unexpected, is it?" I replied, folding my hands calmly. "You always struck me as a man who thrives on predictability. Take what isn't his. Ruin what he doesn't understand. Then act surprised when it bites back." He smiled thinly. "Look, I know how it looks." "No," I cut in. "You don't. Because you didn't think I'd get this far. You thought I'd crawl into a corner, cry into a bottle, and sign whatever papers Ashley threw at me." He leaned forward, dropping the charm. "What do you want?" That's when I slid the envelope across the table. Not thick. Just a single printed page. But that's all it took. He opened it. "Read it." Blanched. "You can't be serious," he muttered. "I'm not bluffing, Chase. That page contains a summary of your unauthorized access to proprietary data, cross-referenced with timestamps and Ashley's outgoing calls. Your firm thinks they're investigating a small breach. What they'll find is a pattern of deliberate misconduct, and a woman who thought love gave her clearance." "You'd ruin her?" he asked, trying for moral high ground. "Cute. She ruined herself. You just gave her the stage." He shoved the envelope back toward me. "What do you want, Logan?" I took a long sip of water before answering. "Simple. You resign. No lawsuits. No press statements. You walk away from her, from the firm, from the state if you can manage it. Quietly. Permanently." He scoffed. "And if I don't?" I smiled. "Then the contents of that envelope go to your legal team, the press, the ethics board, and your mother, who I assume still thinks you're a rising star in corporate finance and not a sleaze with a Google Drive full of stolen data and bad decisions." He stared at me. Really stared. The way men do when they're realizing too late that the fight's already over. "Why not just destroy me?" he asked. I leaned in, voice low. "Because I want you to do it yourself. One step at a time. Alone. Every moment from here on out, you'll wonder who else knows. You'll check over your shoulder in elevators. Watch your email like it's a ticking bomb." He stood abruptly, knocking his chair back. "This isn't over." I stood too. Calm. Controlled. "It is for you." He left, muttering to himself. I let him go. And then I waited. By Monday morning, Chase had resigned for personal reasons. Ashley went radio silent. I heard from Angela that her lawyer was scrambling to renegotiate the terms of the divorce. Too late. The court date was set. The prenup stood. The evidence had been filed. Ashley would walk away with a suitcase and a whisper of her reputation. But I wasn't done. That night, I returned home one last time. The house still held her perfume in the upstairs hallway. I packed the last of my things with mechanical ease. The coffee mug she'd bought for our anniversary, best husband ever, now sat in the trash, its handle snapped clean off. As I closed the final box, I found something I hadn't noticed before, a small note in her handwriting, folded between the dresser drawers. It read, "I never meant to hurt you. I just stopped knowing how to love you. I'm sorry, Logan." I stared at it for a long time. Then I fed it through the shredder. By midnight, I was gone. A new apartment. A new life. Peaceful. Uncomplicated. People talk about closure like it's a finish line. But it's not. It's a door you choose to lock from the inside. And I've never slept better. Most people think the end of a marriage is a bang. Screaming, slammed doors, glass flying across rooms. But the real end is a whisper. A password changed. A toothbrush missing. A cold side of the bed. For me, it was the silence. I'd wake up in my new apartment, and the quiet would crawl into bed next to me, like it belonged there. Some nights it comforted me. Other nights it wrapped around my throat like a scarf too tight. It had been 3 weeks since the last time I saw Ashley. Since the country club takedown, Chase had vanished from every platform. No posts. No sightings. His LinkedIn simply said, "Currently exploring new opportunities." Translation? Fired and floundering. Ashley, though, Ashley was trickier. Word around town was she'd taken a sabbatical. That's what you do when you destroy a marriage and a merger in 1 month. You sabbatical. You let the PR team scrub your name, and you pretend you're finding yourself somewhere in Tuscany. Me? I found myself in aisle 7 of a hardware store, buying hooks for picture frames and staring at a woman who had the same perfume as Ashley. That's when I knew I wasn't angry anymore. I was just tired. But that didn't mean I was finished. Because there was still one name I hadn't crossed off the list. Paul. Ah, yes, Paul. My former friend. The man who clapped and cheered while my wife danced on the edge of my dignity in that club. The man who gave me marriage advice while secretly hyping her up to betray it. Funny thing about betrayal, it leaves a scent. And I could still smell his all over my life. I waited until I knew Paul would be at his usual Friday happy hour spot, the Lantern, a place that tried to pass itself off as craft cocktail culture, but was really just a dark box with $16 gin and tonics and 40-year-olds pretending they were still interesting. I walked in alone, wearing the same leather jacket I wore the night I caught them. It felt symbolic. Or petty. I wasn't sure, but it fit. Paul was at the bar, laughing like he didn't have a care in the world. He spotted me, froze for half a second, then lifted his glass and some mock toast. "Logan," he said, like we were on speaking terms. "Didn't expect to see you here." I sat next to him. Calm. Casual. "I didn't expect to see you here either. Figured you'd be banned from bars after that little floor show you hosted." He chuckled. "Come on, man. Don't be like that. Joyce was gone the moment Chase came back. You were just the last to know." "Maybe," I said, but I was also the last to care. He narrowed his eyes, clearly not expecting that. "So what? You came here to bury the hatchet?" "No," I said, leaning in. "I came here to give it back." I slid a flash drive across the bar to him. Neatly labeled. No drama. No threats. Just a simple, heavy message in plastic form. "What's this?" he asked, visibly annoyed. "Something you should watch before your next performance," I said, standing up. "Call it a rerun." Then I walked out. The footage on that drive wasn't explosive. No cheating. No graphic drama. Just a series of recordings from his work laptop, Paul, drunk, trash-talking his own company in Zoom calls. Mocking clients. Laughing at expense reports. One gym where he used his assistant's login to fake approvals. See, Paul forgot that the firm I used to work for ran his IT system. Forgot that I trained the guy who maintained his compliance logs. Forgot that I'm not the idiot husband people assume I am. He called me boring. But boring men are patient. And patient men win. By Monday, Paul was on leave. I heard he tried to bluff his way through a meeting with HR, something about jokes taken out of context. But the time-stamped records didn't laugh with him. Neither did the client who found out he'd forged their signature for a billing increase. That was the last domino. The final name. Ashley. Chase. Paul. All three had underestimated me. All three had fallen. And yet, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't pop champagne or dance in my living room. I just sat on my couch and listened to the quiet again. This time, it wasn't choking me. It was just there. Familiar. Peaceful. Mine. Angela called that evening. Congratulations, she said. The court finalized everything. You're free. Is that what I am? I asked. Free. You're single, solvent, and smarter than all of them. That sounds like freedom to me. Maybe she was right. But freedom is strange after you've lived in a cage you didn't realize was locked. I hung up and poured myself a drink. No toast. No music. Just me, the night, and the calm that comes after a storm has run out of things to ruin. I thought I was done. I thought burning the bridge meant the forest stopped growing back. But even after you salt the earth, some things still creep through the cracks. Some ghosts don't haunt. They just sit quietly and wait for the door to creak open. Ashley texted me again. It was a Tuesday. Ordinary, unremarkable. I was at my desk drafting an operations pitch when her name lit up my phone like a match over gasoline. Can we talk? Just that. No context. No apology. No shame. At first, I ignored it. I even laughed. Not bitterly, just the kind of laugh you give when someone mistakes your silence for weakness. But hours later, when the day slowed and the light shifted, I found myself staring at the screen again. My thumb hovered over delete, but didn't press it. You see, closure's a trickster. You think you've nailed it down, but one message, and the nails start bending. I didn't respond. Not that day. Wednesday, I came home to find a small package outside my door. No return address. Just my name, written in her handwriting. Inside, my wedding ring. Cleaned. Polished. Resting on a folded note. I didn't know how to say goodbye. So I didn't. I guess this is my attempt. I stared at the note longer than I'd care to admit. It wasn't poetic. It wasn't even original. But it landed like a feather on a bruise. I placed the ring on the counter. Left the note in a drawer. I wasn't going to burn them, but I wasn't putting them on display either. Some scars you learn to live with. Others, you frame. That weekend, I ran into her mother. Maplewood Market, aisle 5, box soup in shame. I was reaching for lentils when I heard the voice. Oh, Logan. I turned, and there she was. Susan Fairchild. The woman who used to call me the best thing that ever happened to Ashley. The same woman who once said, "Promise me you'll never leave her, no matter what." Funny thing about promises, you keep them until someone turns them into chains. Susan, I said, polite but firm. She looked older. Not in a wrinkled way, just smaller. Like someone had popped the balloon that held her spine straight. I didn't expect to see you here. It's the only store within walking distance. Still fond of the mushroom risotto mix, I see. She smiled, weakly. You remember. I remember everything. Her eyes welled a little. She glanced down at her card, then back at me. She regrets it, you know. All of it. I'm sure she does, I said. But that's the thing about regret. It shows up after the damage is done. When it can't be useful to anyone but the person feeling it. She nodded. I just thought you should hear it. Why? I asked. What good does it do now? Her voice broke. Because you were the only man who ever really saw her. And now she's surrounded by people who only see the pieces. I stared at her for a moment, then placed a box of tea in my cart. Tell her this, I said, starting to walk past her. The man who saw her? He's gone now. She buried him under lies and called it closure. That night, I went through the old hard drive one last time. Not out of spite, not to rekindle anything, just curiosity. Just that final flicker of what the hell happened. I watched a video she once sent me. Our anniversary in Napa. She was smiling, barefoot, dancing on the balcony in an oversized sweater. She looked young, untouched by deception. Or maybe I just hadn't seen it yet. She spun toward the camera and shouted, "Promise me, Logan, when we're old and bitter, we'll still dance like idiots." I shut the laptop, sat in silence. We got bitter, all right. But we stopped dancing long before we got old. By Monday, the text had stopped. The echoes faded. But I still saw her sometimes. In the woman at the bus stop laughing at her phone. In the smell of her perfume when a stranger walked by. In the silence between songs when I forgot to skip our playlist. But here's the thing, I didn't flinch anymore. Because I built something stronger than revenge. I'd build a life. One where I could feel the burn without needing to set more fires. People ask if I'll date again. Maybe. But for now, I'm not chasing someone new. I'm chasing peace. And peace doesn't come wrapped in other people. It comes in knowing who you were after someone tried to rewrite your story. Ashley rewrote mine. But I took the pen back. And now? Now I write for me. Healing doesn't come with fanfare. No parade. No ribbon-cutting ceremony. Just moments, small, quiet victories that don't announce themselves. The first time I laughed at a dumb meme without thinking of how Ashley would have reacted. The first full night of sleep without dreams that replayed betrayals in 4K. I started jogging again. Not for my health. Not to move on. Just to feel the ground under my feet and remember what movement felt like without dragging pain behind me. One morning, I passed by the coffee shop Ashley used to love. She once told me it had the best vanilla almond latte on earth. I stepped inside, out of nothing but impulse. The barista asked for my name. Logan, I said. She smiled. We don't get many Logans. I used to come here with someone, I replied. She raised an eyebrow. And now? I paused. Now, I'm just here for coffee. 3 months after the dust had settled, I got a message from an unknown number. I heard what you did. You really took them down. It was impressive. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't recognize the number, but I knew the voice and the words. It wasn't admiration. It was warning. People like Chase have networks. Friends. Allies. And Ashley, for all her tears and handwritten notes, still had claws. A part of me knew this wasn't over in their minds. But that's the difference between them and me. They play games to win. I played it in the game. I never responded to the message. Because if someone wants to come at me, they'll find out what Ashley, Chase, and Paul all did. Quiet men don't stay quiet when you push them far enough. And they don't need to swing fists to end careers. 6 months later, I was at a corporate conference in another city, networking, laughing, alive. I'd rebuilt everything. Career thriving. Mind clear. Soul, mostly intact. As fate would have it, I bumped into someone I never expected to see again. Linda. Yes, that Linda. Paul's cheerleader. Ashley's friend. The woman who sat smirking while my marriage died in public. She looked startled. Older. Like guilt had been aging her faster than time. Logan, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Linda, I replied, perfectly calm. She looked like she expected me to throw a drink, curse her out, demand answers. But I didn't give her the show. Instead, I just smiled. How's Paul? Her face faltered. We're not speaking. Ah, I nodded. Things change. She shifted awkwardly. You look. Well, I am. She opened her mouth again, maybe to apologize, maybe to justify. I stopped her. It's okay, I said, gently. You all played your parts. You just didn't expect me to start writing the script. And with that, I walked away. People ask if I ever got revenge. I didn't. Revenge is small, petty, temporary. What I got was something bigger. I got to live well, while they all had to wake up every day and remember what they did. And that's the kind of justice they'll never escape. Not because I punished them, but because they punished themselves the moment they thought I wouldn't rise.